What is different about these protests compared to those in, say, 2009?
There are a few very important differences. The most important is who is demonstrating. So the demonstrators that are on the streets and have been in rural areas, not necessarily the capital of Tehran, are the regime's base. So they're the political base of the current regime. They're more religious, they're more conservative, and this is why they're, in fact, probably even more important than the demonstrations in 2009 and 2010, which were led by, for the most part, Iran's educated elite. And I think that the other difference, of course, is that the demonstrators today, they began demonstrating about their economic grievances. But as the days have gone on, now they're talking about their political grievances. And as your correspondent mentioned, one of their grievances is that they are questioning the clerical state. They're questioning why a man has divine powers, who's a cleric, who has all powers over the state. And this is quite extraordinary if you consider that the Islamic Republic now has been in power for almost 40 years. And so these demonstrations are very important. The other issue that we should keep in mind in terms of the longer-term ramifications of these demonstrations is that these people aren't going anywhere. So they will remain in the country. Unlike the Green Movement of 2009 and 2010, a lot of the leadership left the country. They went to Europe, they went to the United States. These demonstrators don't have these kinds of resources. So we can expect that they will remain in the country, and unless their grievances are addressed, which seems highly unlikely, perhaps the demonstrations could continue sporadically, even if they're crushed at this moment.
Geneive, Iran is blaming those very protests on foreign interference, in particular the United States, as heard in that Security Council meeting. Is there evidence of that?
Absolutely not. And we have to keep in mind that this is an explanation and excuse that the Iranian government has used since the revolution. Anytime there is discontent, anytime there is unrest, they always blame what they call their outside enemies. But people in Iran don't believe this. It's a ludicrous explanation. And in fact, it's even more ridiculous now that the people who have historically supported the regime are those who are on the streets. So no one in Iran believes this, and no one in the outside world should believe this explanation either.
How helpful is the U.S. speaking out in the way it's done so thus far? The world is watching President Trump and then Nikki Haley echoing him today. The emergency meeting as well that was called, does this just antagonize the Iranian government more, or does it embolden the protesters? And in fact, there were pro-government protesters out today.
Well, it will have two effects. It's having two effects. One is it makes the Iranian government more belligerent, more defiant, because the United States now has taken a very firm position. But it also does encourage the demonstrators. So, as your correspondent mentioned, when former President Obama did not support to this degree the demonstrations in 2009 and 2010, people in Iran believe that that was a mistake. They believe that if he had supported the demonstrators, that history would have taken a different turn. So it has two effects. It makes the regime more defiant, but it also encourages the demonstrations. And to your point about the pro-government demonstrations, we should keep in mind that these are people bussed into cities to demonstrate. These are people who are given incentives by the government to actually demonstrate. It doesn't generally happen voluntarily. So it's almost a staged kind of support for the government.
All right, thank you so much. We do appreciate your time, Geneive Abdo.